October 30, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using the NinjaTrader 8 platform. There was no economic news that came out today to cause the markets to really move any which way. I didn't take a single trade today, and even when I didn't take a single trade, I was watching the price action and I couldn't find any real, really solid high probability setups. I want to say that, this week, tomorrow and into Wednesday is the FOMC meeting. They're gonna start the meeting tomorrow and they'll have the rate decision by Wednesday. And I think most economists and most analysts are thinking there's going to be a no change in the rate, but maybe they'll bump it up one more quarter point in December, but we'll just have to see. So it was kind of difficult, as I said, for me to find any good trades. There was a lot of it was just a lot of noise, and even then there wasn't that many setups. So this video hopefully won't take very long. In the pre-market between Friday and today, you could see there was a gap up, and I was wondering if it was going to close the gap. And as you can see, it never really came back to close the gap. So this is the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows. I see here, didn't mean to do that. I drew this trend line. Is actually, I was playing with several of them. So actually this green one is here, and I don't take any trades in the pre-market. And once the market opened, I was watching pretty carefully to see if I could see any trades. And at this point, it looks like with this gap up, it was going to be kind of probably a trending day. I wasn't too keen on the idea it might be a range, but as you'll see, it was kind of this mixed trading, a little bit choppy. So here on the open, I don't see any good setups. These are all just tiny little candles. Things are just grinding slowly. Technically a first entry long here. You do have a second entry long here, but I don't like the way it's set up. It's not a very good signal bar. Prices then continue moving up. It has already broken out of this pre-market range and has broken out decisively. So you could clearly tell things are moving up. I drew this red support channel, support trend line, and then match the top. I was watching to see if it's going to make a measured leg, one leg, consolidation, a second leg. Prices then continue moving. It never really quite hits it. Still about here. Now I was wondering if there's going to be a pullback, but as you can see, look at this, all these candles right here. They're very tiny, very small. There's no real strong bearish pullback. So clearly you're in a trending bull market right now. Comes back, it starts chopping in this range, and the first setup I see is new high. It's first entry long, comes up here. This is a really good signal bar for a second entry long, but it's below the EMA, and I don't really trust the third bounce off this red channel at this point. Turns out if you took it and you saw this candle, it feels, I don't know, it feels very risky. So even if you waited for the trigger bar to close, I wouldn't have taken a trade. And then it chops around and it continues flashing down. So this would have been a losing trade. Prices then continue, goes into this green channel, breaks out. I see the second entry short here. New low, it's a first entry short. Sets up for a second entry short. The thing I don't like about this is I didn't have an order ready, but I was watching for it. The second entry short is above the EMA, and I needed this to actually break below the EMA because it made a double bottom here. On top of that, overall sentiment is bullish, so it is a counter trend trade. You could be arguing that maybe there's a break. It already tested the high of this green channel, so it's going to come back down and test the lows of this green channel. But this isn't a very good or clear setup. So I said if I was going to try to take a short, I need a lower high confirmation. You don't get a lower high and just keeps moving. Technically, your lower high is here, but you are pressing against potential support. So prices then continue moving down. It creates what I thought is a measured leg here, one leg down, consolidation, another leg, but it broke through and it just kept going. I drew this as a potential channel coming down, but as you can see, just throughout the whole day, there wasn't, as you'll see, throughout the whole day, there wasn't very many clean setups that I could really trust. There's a new low here. It's first entry short, second entry short, terrible signal bar. I needed to bounce. We checked off the EMA. Price then continue moving. You could say there's a new low here. It's a first entry short, second entry short, but this looks just like this one before, where it just wasn't a good signal bar. I'm just kind of sitting on my hands. Prices in, chop, moves into what I think is a range, flashes down. It's still just pretty ugly trading, very noisy. price action isn't really that great today. There's five touches here, and then being a first entry long, second entry long, but seeing this, I was in no way thinking go long or get an order ready. Then once you see this and it flashes up, you technically could put, if you wanted to chase it, put one tick above here, but I felt it was a little risky because I did have this extended thinking maybe it's still in a range. This could be a fail breakout, come back through, or it could be a breakout pullback. In any case, here I would have waited for a higher low, which you don't really get. Prices then continue moving up, comes through and down on this green channel, chops around, crawls back up, it's coming back down. You have a new high, first entry long, second entry long. It's a bad signal bar, just sitting and waiting. So far, price action today, I mean, you could claim there's a bunch of second entries everywhere, but they, in my opinion, weren't very high probability. Prices then move up. I saw this as one leg up, pull back a second leg, and I noticed it reached the top of this measure move, but there was no real good entry that you could trust. You could make an argument that this is a new low, first entry short, second entry short, and the second entry short, you would have to make the argument that this support line is valid and it's having trouble hitting the other side. So you could say maybe there's a short here, enough room to the EMA, but I felt it was a little aggressive. Prices then continue moving down. I thought it created some kind of resistance here and then broke right through. Then price is king, flashing down, chops around. It kind of enters this upward trend. There's only a first entry that I can see here. It's a new low, first entry. Technically, you have a second entry short here and a second entry short failure. Now, form below the EMA, technically the failure happened here. So flashes up this really good signal bar. The problem that I didn't like is it's just pushing against this potential resistance here. And throughout the day, look at this price action. This price action has just been kind of inconsistent. It's kind of below, it comes back up, below. So it's not really respecting the EMA per se, because it's just kind of flashing above and below it. So it's hard to trust, at least today. And since the open from this point back, the EMA is acting as any kind of key entry point at this point. So it's hard to really trust to go long because, as I said, you feel like you're going into a high. But then technically, you think you could probably go short, but then it doesn't feel right. It's just choppy. So I sat on my hands. Turns out this would have worked, but of course I had no idea. And then just look at the subsequent price action. It's very congested. You got stems on both sides. It's just ugly. Prices then continue moving up. Stops around and comes back. It corrects. Technically, you have a new high here. It's a first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long, but this is your signal bar, which is terrible. Even if you waited for the trigger bar to close, it just doesn't feel or look right. Prices then move up. Stops around. And so this time of day, right? There's only 2 more hours left in the trading day, and I just looked back and I look at how many setups I could, identify as, at least being a setup. And I guess I found 3, but even the 3, I didn't think any of them were possible trades. So at this point in time, I was thinking maybe I should just wrap it up, or if I, sit here and I think I want to take a trade, it has to be very clear cut, very, very like obvious. And because everything previously wasn't quite obvious to me, prices then chop, comes back down. I drew this as a trend line support, and then I put another one up here. So I did have this yellow trend channel, and I was wondering if it was going to come into play. It's just, as I said, really slow grinding price action. You could argue there's an overshoot here, so then potentially another overshoot here. So I was looking for one leg down, push up, and then a second leg down. You kind of have it here, except it goes up too high, now it comes back down. And it never really comes back to test the bottom. I saw this in real time, but I just don't like a bunch of things about this setup. It's a new low. The first inch short pulls back, second inch short. The second inch short technically is a decent signal bar, but what takes away from it not being that great or being a good signal bar is doji. It is counter trend because now you look like you're coming right back up now. And it's an inside bar, inside to this big candle. So there's a lot of indecision going on here. Nothing says it has to keep going down, even if it's a second entry. It could easily bounce and go back up. But it's hard to tell because right now and previously, the EMA hasn't been very reliable because it's not a really clear trending day. And even if it's not a clear trending day, it's not a very nice range day either. it's just mixed. It looks ugly. And then you get these side-by-side candles, and you're just like looking at it, you're not really sure. At least I'm not really sure. It's just hard to tell. I have a new low here. It's a first entry short, pulls back, second entry short failure. This failed second entry short is near the top of the range and is coming out of a lot of congestion. It's potentially bouncing off the bottom of this green channel, but even this green channel, it just feels like everything is touching, but it's also kind of all within this big range. So this is going to be a strong push up because it bounced off here as opposed to the range acting as a resistance. It's hard for me to know like, well, which one's going to win out. And when you can make an argument for both, and I just decided, you know what, this isn't happening today. Even though I, traded or tried to trade till the last 30 minutes, I decided to kind of hang my hat up and just watch because it just turns out to be a no trade day, and I was okay with that because it wasn't necessarily frustrating. It was just, and it wasn't necessarily tricky, but it was, I don't know, it was draining. It was draining on just watching all this and not seeing anything clean. And I think that has to do, you do have this crazy range here, not crazy, but a really congested range here. I think what is happening is a lot of traders are just sitting on their hands right now waiting for the FOMC news to play out before they take any position. So I imagine tomorrow could be very similar to today. And knowing what I know and seeing what I saw today, I'll probably have to be extra cautious. And tomorrow could potentially be also a no trade day because it just didn't feel like there was anything really clean and clear cut for me today. So that's how I saw the charts. Hopefully that was helpful.